Recruiting in EA Sports College Football 25 can definitely be confusing if you aren't used to recruiting or if you haven't played a college football video game in the past, or even if you did, it's a good bit different from NCAA 14. So the purpose of this video is to show you when you should hard sell, soft sell, or even sway a recruit. Now this video, I'm going to assume you already know the basics of recruiting, and if you do not and you need a more basic recruiting tutorial, I made one of those as well, so I'll put that down in the description below. I also want to start out by saying there was some confusion whether sending the house and hard selling were worth it. A lot of people were saying instead of sending the house, you should contact friends and family, DM the player, and search social media because that costs only 40 hours and it does more influence. And similarly, they were saying that instead of hard selling, you should soft sell plus do some of these other actions like DM the player and contact friends and family because again, they were saying it does more influence. However, Bordeaux came out on Twitter and he said he talked to some developers over at EA. They said that is not the case. There is no combination of lesser actions that will do more than hard selling or sending the house. So basically, sending the house does more than the other three actions combined, and hard selling does more influence than soft selling plus a combined action. Now, obviously, you can combine something with sending the house or hard selling. So hard selling plus DMing the player is better than simply hard selling, but soft selling plus DMing the player is not better than hard selling. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. So obviously you can't start pitching until the player narrows down to his top 5 schools. Once he narrows down to his top 5 schools, you can either soft sell or hard sell. Soft selling does not award as much influence as hard selling, but it also has a lesser penalty if you choose the incorrect ideal pitch. So hard selling obviously awards more influence over the player, but it has a greater penalty if you choose the incorrect pitch. So as you can see to the right of the screen, we do know this player's ideal pitch. It is pro potential, playing style, and proximity to home. In general, when you know the ideal pitch, you should choose hard sell. That way you do the most influence over the player. And obviously you don't have to worry about choosing the incorrect pitch since we know the 3 things he cares about right here. However, you will notice I actually chose soft sell on this player, and the reason being is simply to preserve hours. So I find myself doing that a lot, especially with smaller schools. Like if you only have 350 hours to work with, a lot of times you'll choose soft sell even when you know the ideal pitch, just because you don't have enough hours. If you consistently do hard sell and spend that 40 hours, you're not going to have enough hours to put towards other players. So if you have enough hours and you know the ideal pitch, then obviously you should just be hard selling if you actually want them to commit to your school. But again, if you are trying to preserve hours and make sure you are recruiting several different guys, you might just do soft sell even when you do know the ideal pitch. And if you're going after a highly recruited player like this guy, he's a 5-star cornerback, you probably need to hard sell, otherwise you're not going to get him. So even though I didn't have all 3 green check marks, I was able to figure it out what his ideal pitch is, and I decided to go ahead and hard sell him. Now this player, I do not know his ideal pitch. I only know one of his motivations. So other than preserving hours, this is when you will want to do a soft sell, because if I hard sell this guy and I choose the wrong pitch, it's obviously going to hurt me. But this guy's already about to cut down his list to the top 3, so I feel like I need to start pitching him, otherwise he's not going to commit to my school. But as you can see, there are 2 different pitches it could possibly be. I decided to soft sell campus personality because my grades were better in these areas, and I'm just hoping this is the correct pitch. If it is, then I will end up hard selling it next week. If it's not, then I'll hard sell the other one. But since I'm soft selling this pitch, it won't hurt me too much if it's not the correct one. So fast forward to next week and you can see I chose the incorrect pitch, unfortunately, but it didn't hurt me too much since I did soft sell. The bigger issue is that this guy's about to commit to Ohio State, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove him from my board. But you get the idea there. I did soft sell because I didn't know his whole ideal pitch, and then I would have gone back in the next week and done hard sell once I figured it out. Here's another example of that. There are several different pitches it could be, so I decided to soft sell him in case I choose the wrong one, and then we'll see what next week I can do from there. And you'll notice I'm combining other recruiting actions to get more influence over this player. And bang, we just got a 5-star. It was pretty easy to get this guy. I was just hard selling him because I knew his ideal pitch. Coming back to Nate Dwyer, I did not pick the correct ideal pitch, but in doing so, I figured out what the correct ideal pitch is, so I'm going to change it to hard sell and then pick the correct pitch. So that's a great example of using the soft sell because it didn't hurt me too much, and now I can change it to the correct one and do hard sell. And now we're starting to rack in the recruits. Despite our efforts, Nate Dwyer ended up committing to Notre Dame, but I think was a good example of using the soft sells and the hard sells. A couple more commits here, including a 5-star. So here you can see I'm just going through my recruits and making sure I'm hard selling on all of them if they're in the top 5, because I have enough hours, so I'm not worried about preserving any hours at this point. So I'm just making sure I'm hard selling on all of them. And if you're hard selling that ideal pitch, good things will happen. Okay, but what about the sway? I was able to determine that this player's ideal pitch is starter, which consists of brand exposure, playing time, and pro potential. My school, Cincinnati, has a B- in brand exposure, an A+ in playing time, and then a C- in pro potential. So the main reason you might want to use the sway feature is when you want to sway the recruit to a different pitch where you have better letter grades. So I chose the sway action and I found this pitch right here, TV time. So its main 3 motivations are brand exposure, championship contender, and playing time. So I made sure to keep brand exposure and playing time since those were 2 of his original ideal pitch motivations, and I have pretty good grades in them. And then I wanted to sway him to championship contender because I have a better grade in that, a B-, than I do in pro potential, which was a C-. If the sway is successful, then my school only gets a new ideal pitch where he also cares about championship contender. So then he would have 4 green check marks: brand exposure, championship contender, playing time, and pro potential, not just the regular 3 check marks. Your sway has a better chance of being successful the more motivations that overlap. So in this example, 2 out of 3 motivations overlap, which gives you the best chance of a successful sway. But if only 1 out of 3 overlap, it'll be a lesser chance of being successful. And then if 0 out of 3 overlap, it's a very, very low chance that you'll be successful in swaying the recruit. So I chose to sway him to the TV time pitch, and we'll advance to the next week to see what happens. As you can see, my sway was successful. I now have 4 green check marks. So now I have 2 ideal pitches I can choose from, and obviously I'm going to choose the one I swayed him to because I have better letter grades in that pitch, which is why I swayed him that way in the first place. I'm currently sitting in first for this player, but you can see some of these other schools are coming in hot. Ohio State had a pretty big jump from last week. So now I'm going to go in and hard sell him my new ideal pitch that only my school has. Essentially, I traded pro potential, which was a C-, for championship contender, which is a B. So now my hard sell is going to be more effective because the motivations within that pitch are better for my school specifically. Fast forward to next week, I actually fell down to number 3 on his list, but that's probably just because Ohio State and USC have more hours than me. I still did make a good jump. There's really nothing more I can do at this point other than try to sway him again, which probably wouldn't be a good idea. So I'm just gonna stick with it and advance the week again. And look at that, we just had a massive jump all the way up into first place, and he is about to commit. The issue is Ohio State perfectly scheduled their visit right after mine. This is week 15, so there's a good chance he ends up committing to Ohio State this week because of that visit to their school. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. You can see there in the second line that Yancey committed to Ohio State. It sucks because I think we played that perfectly. The sway was perfect. We upgraded our sway to a better pitch. It just happened that he scheduled a visit with Ohio State this week, and because of that, he committed to them instead. But if he did not have that visit scheduled with them, we definitely would have gotten him, and I think a big part of it was because of that sway. So I hope this was helpful with seeing when you should hard sell, soft sell, and use the sway feature. Each one is valuable and has their own place. In general, if you know the ideal pitch, you'll just hard sell. But soft sell is definitely handy, especially when you're trying to preserve hours. Sway is also very helpful if you want to sway him to a better pitch that your school is graded better on. Thank you for watching. Follow me on Instagram at BringNCAA Back. Follow me on Twitter at TubbyLight, and subscribe here for more videos just like this one.